One other election that you will find on the ballot is for the National TYCA representative. And this is the person who represents us, our regional, at NCTE and at 4Cs. Thad, I've not asked you this in advance. Would you mind just telling folks just a couple of words about what you've been doing and helping us so ably over the last few years?
Good afternoon again. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Our representative to National TYCA, Southeast representative, attends the meetings of the Executive Committee of National TYCA at 4Cs, which is generally in March. Last year was in April, but sometime around there, and then at NCTE in November. And in that capacity, the person who represents Southeast is a voice for our concerns at the national level, and I think it's a wonderful commentary on the growth of the influence of two-year colleges in this country, that there is such a prominent place for our voice at the national level at NCTE and at 4Cs. So I don't think I've left anything out there. But I encourage you to vote. Thank you.
At present, we have one nominee, and that is Beverly Fatheree, a colleague of mine from Hines Community College. We'd like to offer her just a couple of moments to introduce herself and say a few words.
Hello. I'm Beverly Fatheree. I've been at Hines for almost 30 years now. I was very young. A child prodigy. And I've been a member of TYCA since 1981. I actually went to work at Hines in 1980 and attended my first SCETC, Southeastern Conference on English at the two-year college, which is the original TYCA, in February of 1981. And I will say that my professional life was transformed at that point. My job evolved into a career because of TYCA. I expanded from just going to class and teaching my classes and going home into a professional organization that offered not only encouragement but the opportunity to expand myself. I have done presentations with my colleague Faye, who is not with me today, but and on my own as well. And as I've said to new members often, this is the best place in the world to get your feet wet if you ever want to get involved professionally and do a presentation. I would be very proud to represent TYCA Southeast at the national conferences. And I know that I cannot live up to Thad, and Dan Wiley was a wonderful representative. We've had some great representatives. But I will do my best. So, thank you.
Okay, and I would like to take this opportunity to open the floor for other nominations.
I move that nomination cease.
Second. Where's that? Right. Then, is there a motion to elect by acclamation?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome, Beverly. Next, I'm excited to welcome to the podium Charles Smyers, our REC treasurer.
Flannery O'Connor once said, "The writer should never be ashamed of staring. There's nothing that does not require his attention." Our speaker today, Dr. Lucinda McKibben, Emeritus Professor of English at North Carolina State University, has been staring and wrestling with Southern literature and culture in her scholarly work and teaching for 4 years. Dr. McKibben is one of the nation's foremost scholars in literature of the American South, having published 3 monographs 4 edited books, essays, book reviews, and articles and reference works. The companion to Southern Literature, which she co-edited, received the 2002 Best Reference Book designation from the American Library Association. Southern literature is her passion, but teaching is her great love. So I wanted to share with you some of the many highlights. Not all of them, because if we talked about all of them, I would take her time. As a teacher, she worked to implement undergraduate curricular innovation. She co-designed the teacher education concentration in English. In creative writing, she helped to build a program that enabled the department to launch its MFA degree. She's a member of the North Carolina Academy of Outstanding Teachers, was awarded North Carolina State's highest honor for a faculty member, the Holiday Medal for Excellence. She's a former fellow of the National Humanities Center, directed 3 NEH Summer Teacher Institutes. She's had grants, national workshops on American women's writing. Our online curriculum as the National Humanities Center is used statewide for professional development of secondary teachers. From 2002 to 2005, she served as chair of the North Carolina Humanities Council. Now chairs the state as one of the council's Rhodes Scholars, and Let's Talk About It book discussion leaders. Need to talk to you especially about one book that we will have book plates in the writer's room. One book that I'm kind of familiar with is a book called Daughters of Time, Creating Voice in Southern Story. The book itself makes major discoveries and connections that describe the various expressions that Southern women have used to show their experiences, their hopes, and their memories. When we were planning this conference, we were coming up with speakers. A book that I had been working with about a month at that time, one of my professors told me to be sure to find the book, the one on Southern culture that she used. One of the books is a major source in my dissertation, is the Daughters of Time, Creating Voice in Southern Story. If you are a Southern daughter, this book makes you proud of your heritage. If you're not a Southern daughter, the book makes you sure want to be one. It is my pleasure to present to you Dr. Lucinda McKinnon.
Barbara, thank you so much. That's a lovely introduction. It makes me even happier that I'm here today. The opportunity to speak to this particular group is a very special one to me because I have many former students and some current students who are teaching in North Carolina's community college. I counted up about 15 that I knew of, and I know there are many more. And I know the work that they do. They're the best teachers. They're the best students that I taught at NC State in our master's programs, and I know they're the most committed teachers that we have in the state on any level. And so to be here with you today is indeed a great honor. And I'm just delighted to join you. My topic, of course, like almost all my topics that I choose when I give a talk or my syllabi when I teach a course, is just way too big. And as I thought about how to, in some way, narrow down the idea of teaching the South and teaching in the South, I decided, what the heck, I'll just be random. And for once in my life, since I finally retired last summer so that I could maybe do some of my own writing of Southern literature, I just say what I wanted to say, instead of trying to give you lots of background or deep thoughts. There's a wonderful book written by some of you called Southern Culture and Introduction. I don't know if any of you know that book, but those of you who teach Humanities 122, the Southern Culture course, I'm sure you use that book, and because it's out there, it saves me the trouble of trying to give that kind of background. It's just an excellent work, and it addresses so many of the areas that we all teach when we teach the South. That helps me to be free today, to be different and narrower and eccentric. which is what I want to do. So, my narrower questions as I talk to you today are these. What South do we teach as English and humanities teachers? And also the question, where are we when we teach in the South? And I'm going to concentrate primarily, because I'm an English teacher, on Southernness that is shaped within literary, or at least symbolic, representations. In a South, as it is, and has been revealed through language and image and myth and story, those hieroglyphs and narratives that we carry around in our heads, whether we were born in the South or not, whether we lived in the South or not. A kind of symbolic Southernness. But I also want to stress that these representations of the South, these made fictive Souths, can't live or breathe, I don't think, unless they also encompass in some manner what sociologists have begun calling the South's geopolitical characteristics. And that simply means the South is a physical space and place, geographically ordered, mappable, photographable, historical, governmental, all of these kinds of realities as well. And I want to illustrate these two combined forms of Southernness, the geopolitical and the symbolic, and I won't use these highfalutin words anymore. I think I can make it concrete by giving you two self-indulgent autobiographical narratives, brief ones. For the first several years of my life, really all through the 1950s, I arrived in the South by car. Usually some version of a push-button Chrysler, because that's the kind of car my daddy loved. He just loved those push-button Chryslers. Every summer, from the years I was a toddler up until my teen years, and when I finally went to college, my family made our way south by car from Akron, Ohio, where we, in my parents' minds, had the misfortune to live, down to Winchester, Kentucky, which was where my father had been born. And along the way, we would pass through Maysville, Kentucky, on the Ohio River, and not far from Danville. These the two towns where my mother's people hailed from. Don't you love that? Hailed from. And the one image that I think has strongly influenced my emotional and psychological sense of what the South is has to do with that trip, but mostly a town in Ohio, a town called Ripley, Ohio. I will never, ever forget Ripley, Ohio, because that was where, at least to my child's mind's eye, you would come into this small but thriving town. It was set high on a bluff above that dappled, wide Ohio River. It turns out that that town, and I had no idea of it then, was the town on the Ohio side of the Ohio River that Eliza and Uncle Tom's cabin made her way to, because it was a very famous stop, and there is now a house that commemorates the place and the man, Mr. Rankin, who had a stop on the Underground Railroad shaft Harriet Beecher Stowe used as she created and crafted Eliza's escape from Kentucky into Ohio. But when I was going the other way, through Ripley on my way to Kentucky, you would come to the top of a long hill, and there would be, at that time, there were thriving stores on either side of that street that went down to the river, and those wonderful diagonal parking spaces. And so it was really like a chute, and you couldn't fall off either side, and you just went straight down that hill. And at the bottom was that amazing river. And it was like coming out of the block on a ski slope. And you would start down, and all of us, my brother and sister and me and my parents, would take a deep breath in, and we didn't let out until we had gotten to the bottom. It was almost like floating. And when we got to the bottom, we were on the edge of one world, about to enter another one.